What's up, guys? Welcome to the Yannis Pappas Hour. Before we start this episode, this amazing episode, I would like to tell you about patreon.com/Yannis Pappas Hour for our weekly bonus episodes. Go sign up, support the show. $5 a month. You get a bonus episode. Some of our best episodes are back there. Go listen to the full catalog and leave. Who cares? Pay $5 and binge it. Then leave and come back. I'm not telling you how you can scam me.
I found this on the web.
Oh, shut up, bitch. Siri's always getting involved. Anyway, shows coming up in Madison right now. These shows still have a few tickets left. They're selling out. Tonight is sold out. Thank you. Tacoma, Washington. Next weekend, February 16th through the 18th. Chicago, February 24th through the 26th is sold out. Thank you. Atlantic City on March 3rd. Emmaus, Pennsylvania, March 4th. Arlington Draft House in the D.C. area. Arlington, Virginia, March 9th through the 11th. Dallas, Texas, March 16th through the 18th. Springfield, Missouri, the 23rd through the 25th. Phoenix, March 30th through April 1st. Stamford, Connecticut has been added. Brand new comedy club. I can't wait to do it. New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut, April 7th and 8th. And then Tampa Side Splitters, April 21st through the 22nd. San Francisco Punchline, May 4th through the 6th. Tickets are up. Providence, Rhode Island, May 12th through the 13th. Get your tickets at YannisPappasComedy.com. I hope this audio sounds decent. Now, enjoy the episode.
Yannis Pappas. Yeah. When you all tucked up in the day long, and the news online going on and on, what's right and wrong, and there's something up. Now here comes a great kid you know you can trust. From the true who's who, to the news and cameras, to the fake politics and the propaganda. Yeah, this kid's screwed in, got a lot to say. Oh shit, it's about to be a long day. It's a long day. It's a long
What's up,
day.
everybody? Welcome to the Yannis Pappas Hour. Still with the long day sign up here. We're in between bands. It wouldn't be the show if I didn't mispronounce things, because that's what I do. We got a very special guest in here, Zoltan Kaszas. Did I nail that? I didn't even ask you.
You did.
Nailed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, the Hungarians will be very proud of you.
Yeah, here's the deal. Me and you got foreign names.
Uh-huh.
I'm Yannis Pappas. You're Zoltan Kaszas, which right away lets people know that our parents came from someplace else.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nobody native with the name Zoltan.
No,
Yeah.
no. That's, I mean, I was actually born in Budapest. So, like, I got it. We moved when I was 4. That's why I don't have the accent or anything. But I was there. I got labeled it, and then we moved.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, you brought up by just your mom.
Yeah, single mom.
So there's a story there.
Yeah.
Did your dad join like the Hungarian freedom fighters or something?
No.
That's a possibility. If you're talking about somebody who came here whose dad's not in the picture, it's not like, hey, man, my dad had a gambling problem. There's a possibility. It's like, yeah, my dad was a communist. He fought with that group, paramilitary, and then the country got thrown over by these people, and we decided to get out of there.
You know, that could be the story. Because, like, there's a story your mom gives you, and then you're like, is that true?
Right.
Or did she come up with a flowery story? The story I have is my dad was a musician. I come from like a family of musicians, and they were young. They had me, and he wanted to tour and be a musician, and so they broke up, and she got full custody. That's supposedly the story, and I mean, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it now because I'm a comic.
Yeah, you're living it.
Yeah, I'm living it. And I'm like, man, I kind of, like, I wouldn't do that now, but he did that when he was like 22, 23.
Yeah.
I'm 35. I wouldn't do that now, but I'm like, I might have done something like that if I was 22, 23.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to be a comedian. I can't do this.
Yeah, that's interesting when you follow in the footsteps of someone who wasn't even there. You could just feel the genetic pull. You know, you're going like, so like when you do have kids, you have kids?
No.
When you do have kids, there might be a genetic pull. You might be like, I got to get out of here. You're like, what is this feeling? Where does it come from?
They're going to hold me down.
Yeah.
There was a moment that really scared me because I just knew he played violin. And then I used to work cruise ships for like a year or two. And I was on a cruise ship and I was talking to my mom and she's like, oh, your father played cruise ships. And I was like, what are the odds that we both ended up in the same situation, except he was behind me on the violin and I was in front bombing in front of people in shorts.
Right.
But like,
yeah, and yours was in English and his was in
exactly.
Yeah.
You take the language away, though.
That's funny, though. You know, like Kobe Bryant, his pops was a basketball player, Jelly Bean Bryant. He inherited the genetics for sports, and you might inherit the genetics for being an absentee papa.
That scares the hell out of me.
You got to be careful. Yeah, that's it's genetic.
Yeah. What if it is genetic, like scoliosis or something? I don't even know if scoliosis is genetic, but like slowly it just comes in. And I'm like, I just have this itchy hand to leave.
Yeah, maybe what triggers it is the kid. Maybe it's latent because you don't have a kid, and then once the kid comes, you're like, that just triggers it. Sort of like sometimes how weed triggers like latent schizophrenia.
Right.
Maybe that triggers like latent douchebag dad.
You know why that would be extra bad? Because out of my fiance and I'm the one that's more heavy into the idea of having a kid one day.
Right.
She's more iffy about it. Of like, I don't know, maybe, perhaps. And then I'm more like, man, you see the boots on that kid? That's adorable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more of that. And she's like, oh, you're so ready to be a dad. That'd be horrible if we end up having a kid. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I got to get the hell out of here.
Do you think part of the reason is for the material? Do you have that comedian thing where you're going like, all right, I've kind of done all that stuff.
I think so.
Yeah.
I do. The reason I go do different things is for the joke.
Right.
And I'm like, well, there's going to be a funny joke, Like we went rock climbing and I knew I was going to get hurt going rock climbing, but I'm like, well, maybe I'll get a couple minutes out of it. And that's what gets me to go. So yeah, maybe part of the fatherhood idea is like, well, there's going to be, look at all these comics that have all these dad jokes. I want in on that.
Yeah. We're a species within a species, comedians. Like, we're never present. There's always an ulterior motive. Like, every conversation, every event, every relationship, we're like, yeah, but is it funny, though? Is it funny for me? Can I get something out of this?
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? Don't you care about me? You're like, well, I care about if it's funny.
I think our brains just naturally go there.
Yeah.
And man, I've heard you're not present so much in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm here. I'm just thinking of this situation in a snow globe.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to go, that's funny in there and that's funny over there. But yeah, maybe you're right. I'm not here.
Yeah, we all are. We're kind of like here, but also in a helicopter above.
Uh-huh.
It's like when people describe near-death experiences, and they're like, oh, I saw myself from above.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, yeah, maybe you should hit an open mic. It's exactly how we feel all the time.
Yeah. That wasn't God. That was the pool for the spotlight.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be paying a few bucks to go up at an open mic. Definitely.
Yeah. So let me hear this story here. You're 4 years old, What do you do? How do you get out of Hungary? Budapest? Was it your idea? You're like, Mom, we got to get to the States because this place fucking blows.
I was happy as a 4-year-old. We were living with my grandmother in like a 1-bedroom apartment in Budapest.
That's when you don't know any. That's when.
Yeah.
That's when you just don't know anything different. So you're like, things were great.
I didn't know what dementia was.
Yeah.
I just thought she really wanted my teddy bears. Like she wouldn't give me my teddy bear back. I didn't know that was like an early level of dementia. And I was like, all right, she's competitive. I like that. But what ended up happening is my mom married a Hungarian American who like kind of split time between both Hungary and the States, and they got married, and we ended up moving to Pittsburgh. That's where we first lived.
And you were like, kind of a lateral move.
It was pretty
Mom, you ever hear about New York, L.A.?
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And my mom is, she's a tough lady and she doesn't put up with much. So that marriage lasted like 7 months. And she's like, we're getting the hell out of here.
Post green card.
Yeah. Well, she didn't, with no green card. We were going to move back home.
Ooh.
She was like, I'm not putting up with this to live in the United States. We're going home. But while we were there, there's a big Hungarian community in Pittsburgh. And she met this lady that was pretty well-to-do. And before we
She
left,
went lesbian after that.
that would be a better story.
Yeah, I thought that's where we're headed. Like, then he met this lady and things changed.
You know what? When you're a kid, you don't know what's
Right.
going on. Maybe that was what was happening. But the story we were told is she hired her as like a live-in housekeeper, and she would sponsor us. So we did move back home for it was like a trip. It was like 3 weeks, and then she realized there's like no opportunity here. So she took the lady's offer. And it was weird. We're poor immigrants, but now we're living in the rich neighborhood in Pittsburgh. Like we lived in the same neighborhood as Bill Cowher.
Yeah.
But we were still poor. So it was such a weird, I don't know. When we ended up moving to San Diego, we lived in the trailer park. So we were always trailer park in the heart, or like 1-bedroom apartment in Budapest. But for 3 or 4 years, we were living in this like giant house in Pittsburgh.
Wait, so you went from that neighborhood to a trailer park?
Yeah, because my mom eventually, she's like, we should move on from this. And she made some friends that also lived part-time in San Diego. So we moved to San Diego, and that's where we could afford to live, was the trailer park.
So the roller coaster of comedy is not new to you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
When you go to one room and it's great, tickets sell great, then you go to another one and you're like, all right, this isn't great.
Yeah,
You're
comedy
like,
is...
I've been doing this.
Comedy to me has been as humbling and as rewarding as just regular life. You're like, oh, we're in a mansion. Oh, we're in a single wide trailer with one toilet.
Yeah.
This is where it's at.
Nothing sums up comedy better than that scene in Louis where he's with Joan Rivers. You ever see that scene? And they're in the casino, and he's complaining about being in the little room, and she was in the big room, and they decide to go to dinner that night. And she gives him this talk about, one year you're in the big room, then you're in the little room, then you're in the back to the big room. You just got to go and be appreciative of it and go with the flow. And then there's like a pause, and he tries to make out with her, which is hilarious. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I thought we were having a thing. But the speech was really like accurate. I think that's our experience. It goes up, it goes down. It's a fun ride.
It is, and I think that's why. I mean, you'll definitely run into arrogant comedians, but for the most part, I think most comedians are pretty humble because their last bomb wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
and it always kind of keeps everything leveled out.
Also, it's not, even if you're the most selfish comic in the world, I think that being the perennial underdog is like our advantage.
Yep.
Like once you start climbing up, that's the funny thing about it is like once you start climbing up, you kind of lose that edge. You kind of, you can't, there's no rich people going up there being like, my private plane wouldn't start today. What a horrible day. My butler was late.
Yeah, I think Ron White's maybe the only one that even mentions his private plane on stage. Like most comics probably wouldn't. I don't know if you feel this way, but you ever look at like the comics on top with the private jets and the mansions, and you're like, yeah, but how do you write jokes in there?
Right.
How do you come up with something funny? And like, I feel that way anytime a gig puts me up in a nice hotel room. I'm like, I can't be funny in here. This is too nice. Yeah. It needs to be kind of shitty.
You have to struggle. You have to have bad things happen to make funny. If your life's too good, I think I said this recently, and I think it's true. I think you gotta be the jester or the king. I don't think you can be both.
Right.
I think that's Elon Musk's problem right now. Is he's trying to rip jokes, and you're like, dude, you got whatever comes out of your mouth affects your stock price.
Yeah.
I don't know if on New Year's if I was watching the ball drop or Tesla stock. They could have just put Tesla stock up there. It's just going 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 2, what?
Elon learned, I think, a lesson with that Twitter buy, which is something my mom taught me, which is don't become the manager. Because before he bought Twitter, he was the cool employee that would just put out a tweet and argue with Bernie Sanders and send internet to the Ukraine. And everyone's like, this guy's awesome. But he got promoted to manager, and now he's in charge of the schedule, and everyone's like, this guy's kind of a dick.
Was she thinking like owner or employee, but middle management is
not, either own the company or be a regular employee, because she would always tell me the raise bump that they give you to manage isn't worth the now headache that you're going to have. So either own the McDonald's or work the fries. But don't be in charge of the schedule, because the money's not worth the headache and everyone's going to hate you. Right. And I was like, that is so true.
It is a good one. Yeah. You can't get those nuggets of truth from people who haven't struggled to make it.
Yeah.
Those nuggets of truth come from people who have experience and who immigrated and you just know that you're like, that rang true. You're like, what? She's right. She's right, dude. Don't ever manage a comedy club.
Yeah, no.
Own it or work in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Own it or do a weekend and then leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely don't manage it. Yeah. She always looks at things. I feel like people that grow up working since they're a kid, just have a really straightforward, just kind of way of thinking. Like we had a family friend that was a big conspiracy theorist, and he was talking about chemtrails, and my mom didn't understand. I was like, what is this chemtrails? And I was trying to explain, thinking there's chemicals in the air that will go in the nose and keep us dumb and docile. And the rich people are putting it up there. My mom goes, the rich people aren't breathing this air. And I'm like, yeah, that is so true, but shut up right now because it's Thanksgiving and just let them rant right now, you know?
She just went like this with just a gun of reality, just one bullet. You're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, she was probably thinking, oh, yeah, because did your relative grow up here or something? Or is he from
This was
there?
like a relative of like another family member. So it wasn't like someone we were directly related to, it was someone they brought to Thanksgiving.
Right.
And they just kind of took over the
But
table.
American, though.
Very.
Yeah.
Very American.
She was probably, I could understand her thought process going like, oh, like the anatomy of her thought was probably like, oh, he's American inventing a problem so he has something to talk about and something to do.
Yes.
Right, because where I come from, there's real problems.
Yeah. My mom was always like, this place is so much better that even with all the issues, it's like, still beats Budapest.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the way you end conspiracy theories is you talk to, like, immigrants who are, and they just give you the cold hard fact real quick of how it works.
Dude, that
Because
might
your
be
mom just killed it in a second. You're going like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're going like, the vaccines are intentionally killing people. Your mom would be like, why would they want to do that? Who's going to work? And you go, oh yeah. They need a workforce. They don't want to be alone. They got to sell their shit to people to get rich.
She felt that way about crypto too, because I was telling her like when crypto was getting hot, I'm like, I'm thinking of buying this Bitcoin, but I'm scared. Yeah. And she's like, what is it? And I kind of talked to her about it. She goes, that's a scam. And I go, well, I don't think so. And she's like, no, it's a scam. We're like, no, they're telling us to do it. She's like, yeah, but why would rich people want other rich people to get rich? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, man.
Is that what she said?
That's what she said.
Because that fucking is true.
It makes
That's all you need. That one sentence. You said it, and it made sense so quickly in my mind. I went, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, quicker than a millisecond. I was like, yeah. Dude, you know how many fucking people's houses could be saved if they just had one conversation with your mom?
I know.
They were able to just get on the fucking one Zoom call with your mom. They would be like, oh, yeah. That makes no sense. Why would they just open up free money for everybody so easily?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, no, there's somebody at the top of this who's scamming people.
Exactly. Someone's going to win.
Yeah.
And
It ain't going to be you.
it's not going to be you. Yeah. And that's kind of like how I was raised. So, like, we're kind of raised, like, my mom's a commie, like, in the sense that she liked communism in Hungary. We left after communism fell. So, communism fell in 89, and she's like, oh, things are getting dicey here. And it's because, like, because I argue with her about this all the time. I go, no, the free market, blah, blah. And she's like, no. She's like, I had a job, and I had food, and the streets were safe.
Yeah.
So that's what communism was to her.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, but what about dreams? And she's like, yeah, I didn't really have any. Right. So, like, it kind of lined up with me, and I was like, all right, that works for you.
Right.
But if I wanted to be a comedian in communist times in Hungary, I don't know if that would have worked out.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend from East Germany when I was in college. She was an au pair, and I met her here. And she told me about that. She grew up in communism. That was the same exact positive she gave it.
Same?
She was like, everyone had like the same car. It was like safe. And I was going, this sounds exactly like what someone would say from Bensonhurst, New York, when the mafia ran it. Those were the pros, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, as long as you don't know how the sausage is made.
Right.
Then there's a lot of pros. You're like, yeah, like, in like John Gotti's areas, you're like, the streets were safe, no crime. There's like, yeah, because they had a monopoly on the crime.
Yeah.
And there is a positive to that, but there's a big asterisk. You should put a big asterisk next to those positives because the government had the monopoly on the violence and the suppression and everything. So you're like, yeah, it does keep the streets safe from other people. But if you say certain things about, I don't know, whatever, it wasn't Tito. Who's the guy in Hungary? I know Tito was Yugoslavia.
I don't even know who the guy in Hungary was.
Bushnelznino.
I know it was the Russians. I know it was the Russians that ran us because I was there when I was 2 and they moved the vehicles out because they left.
Right.
And
whatever viceroy they threw in there.
Yeah, whatever
puppet.
friend of the USSR, they're like, you run Hungary or you're the administrator or whatever. But yeah, she was all hung up on it. Like I even made her watch. Have you ever watched Chuck Norris versus Communism?
No, but it sounds like a fucking lit movie that I'm checking out tonight.
It's not exactly what it sounds like. It's a documentary about Romania, which is right next to Hungary, and they had a very strict government, like more so than Hungary's, where they policed all the entertainment that came in. They allowed no Western movies at all. Hungary allowed them; they did not. But there was like an illegal tape trading, like drug dealers, but they're trading movies, and each of these big apartment complexes, like one guy might own like a VCR, and he would have viewing parties, like where the entire building comes, and then they watch like these like Chuck Norris movies and Van Damme and whatever was hot in the 80s, Stallone, and like they said they interviewed all the people that would watch them, and they were just watching the grocery stores and like the background, like, oh look, everything's full, everything looks amazing, and it helped like lead the revolution against communism. And we watched this movie and we listened to all these like beautiful, heart-wrenching stories, and then at the end of the documentary, I go, "What'd you think, Mom?" She goes, "It was very nice, but you know that illegal tape trading, that was the only crime going on." And I was like, "That's all you got out of this? It's a beautiful story."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, it was fun."
Yeah. Stockholm Syndrome is a real thing, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like we were talking about that when I lived in New York. In this apartment, I was considering raising a family here. And then it's all because all I knew. I grew up in New York, and then you see like a house, and you're like, oh, there's a better way.
Yeah.
So, but you know, there's something to be said the way communism gets you in the formative years. My mom was the same way. My mom was a human rights lawyer, and my mom like would always talk about communism and the beautiful idea of communism. And I've said it before, but she did it in Fendi shoes, and I would always look down and go, "Yeah." Okay, Mom. Yeah, she had like this massive shoe collection,
Right.
like a Fendi pin on her suit. You know, and
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds expensive.
Yeah, it's an expensive designer.
Yeah, okay.
So it's all relative. Yeah, I mean, you know, but it can work if, you know, if it can work if you brainwash everybody. You can't.
Right.
I understand why they didn't let Chuck Norris versus communism in. Which, by the way, I get whatever movie that was, which I'm going to check out. That is the most honest title
It's great.
I've ever heard for those movies in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because those were propaganda movies.
Oh, for sure.
Make no mistake about it. Like Rambo. Rambo was just like, there's no way the U.S. government wasn't like, hey, here's a couple dollars. Like, how many does he kill? Make it 300. Here's a couple dollars.
There's a reason that happened. Like Rambo came out not that many years after Vietnam ended.
Yeah.
We need some like boost for like that makes so much sense.
Those Cold War movies are hilarious. When you look at them retrospectively, I mean, fucking Rocky 3. Is that the one where he fights Drago? Four.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end in Russia, they just start chanting Rocky.
Rocky, yes.
And dude, you feel it as a kid watching it. You feel the goosebumps, and
Yeah.
you leave, and you're fucking America.
If I can change, you can change. We can change, and you're like, that's a PBS ad. Like that's what Rocky said that,
Dude, no way in the former USSR that crowd would have started chanting Rocky.
No,
Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't have done it.
no.
But yeah,
they would have been taken away in hoods. Like they would have just dragged them out.
but it works, man.
Guys, hi again. Listen, from Madison, Wisconsin, this episode is brought to you by Butcherbox. I could be anywhere and talk about Butcherbox. You get the message. But doesn't it feel better when it's user-generated and the audio is a little bit more, what's the word?
Spread out.
Spread out. It has a little more an echo. Less professional is the word that I'm looking for. Butcherbox.com/fumes. Use the promo code FUMES to get 100% grass-fed chunk roast and a whole chicken free in your first box, plus $20 off. You know what's great about what they give away? They give away so much because they're doing so good. And they just know, hey, let's keep signing more people up. Because ButcherBox is the best way to get your meat. You just get it delivered to your house. It's cage-free, raised, crate-free, wild-caught seafood, humanely raised, no antibiotics, no added hormone. They take the guesswork out of finding high-quality meat and seafood you can trust. I've obviously also free shipping in the continental USA, which is a good amenity. Takes the pressure off. The food comes straight to you. I obviously buy ButcherBox. They've sent me free. There's no downside. You like meat? This is the best way to do it. Saves time at the supermarket. It's frozen. You can store it in the meal in the freezer, and everything's just easier. So go to butcherbox.com right now /fumes, promo code FUMES. And like I said, you get their deals. 100% fed chunk. What's a chuck roast?
Chuck roast, like, kind of like a pot roast.
So you get a pot roast, You get a 100% grass-fed chuck roast and a whole organic chicken free when you join. Plus an additional $20 off your first box. Butcherbox.com/fumes. Promo code FUMES. Let's go. Guys, is there anything better than getting a bunch of gifts on repeat and it's a mystery, or sending someone else a bunch of gifts? Bespoke Post is presenting you Box of Awesome, as they have been, as they will be. It's absolutely amazing. All you got to do is take the quiz to get started. It's fun. Your answers help them pick the right Box of Awesome for you. And they release new boxes every month across a ton of different categories. They work with emerging and new brands. Some cool ass stuff. The coolest stuff is not in Walmart. The coolest stuff is from these small companies that think of cool stuff. Like the little outdoor flame that you get. What do you call that? A small fire pit that was sent to me from Bespoke Post. The knife that I got. The scent that we got that rubs on.
The hard cologne.
The hard cologne. They have all types of cool stuff. And based on the answers to your quiz, that's what they send you. And you get a deal out of it. It's a lot cheaper. You get 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome comes from a small and up-and-coming brand, which is great. And you only pay a fraction of the price. Each box is valued at around $70, but you pay a fraction of that $70. So take the quiz at boxofawesome.com right now. Let them learn about you and send you your Box of Awesome. Become subscribed to it. You'll love it. It feels good to get all those presents. And they're all very cool, the things that they send. Boxofawesome.com, promo code FUMES for 20% off your first box right now.
Yeah.
It fucking propaganda does work. I think it's because of that old adage, like whoever said it first, but it's true. Like the truth has trouble putting its pants on, and is a lie like circles the world a few times. What is it again? I always mess
never
it up.
heard that.
I feel like George Bush Jr. every time I say one of these. I'm like, yeah.
Fool me, but you
Lord
can't fool
taketh,
me.
but the Lord taketh awayeth. Something like that, right? What is it? Do you know it?
Yeah, I think
The truth has a trouble while the truth putting its pants on.
Yeah, a lie
Something
travels around the world. I think it's Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. Yeah, Mark
Okay.
Twain. The world travels around. Which he was, it's funny that it wasn't his real name, Mark Twain.
No, yeah, it was a pseudonym.
Pseudonym, and the main reason was because he was putting the truth in his books.
Oh.
And he didn't want people to know who he was because it pissed people off.
Oh, so it was a safety measure.
It was a safety measure. Yeah. It was like he had, Uncle Tom's Cat, not Uncle Tom's Cat, that's Harry Beecher Stowe, but Tom Sawyer and stuff.
Yeah.
He had the slave speaking and being wise and, these things that at that time were just a little too avant-garde. And so, yeah, a lot of authors would do that just to escape the ire of them. You always gotta stay away from the masses. They're stupid.
Yeah, so it's almost like the modern version of having a burner account on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like your pseudonym and you're like, this is what I really think, but I don't want to lose my job.
So did you start in San Diego?
Yeah, that's where I started doing stand-up. 19, went to an open mic. And I went to an open mic because I was going to have shoulder surgery because my original dream was I wanted to be a professional wrestler. Because I grew up in the trailer park, man. Those are our heroes, man. I wanted to be The Rock. Yeah. And but I had a bad shoulder and I was going to have shoulder surgery. I'm like, I need something to do while I'm in a sling. And I was like, I've always loved stand-up. So I went to an open mic and bombed in front of mostly my friends. I brought a lot of my friends and it went so poorly. And but it got me, I was like, because I went in thinking it was going to go great.
Right.
I went in with such a blind confidence.
Yeah, it's the best.
And then it just tore me down. Because most comics are I brought all my friends for the first show and I crushed and then I bombed the second one. I bombed the first 20, in a row. And that was the part that kept me coming back where I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be this should go well.
Right.
And it just kept humbling me and that kept me interested in to keep doing it. And then I ended up canceling my surgery because I booked a show and never went back to pro wrestling and stuck with comedy.
So you just got one shoulder. You have one good shoulder.
I have this shoulder hangs lower than this one. Like when I get fitted for a suit, they always go, "Huh, I got to pad this shoulder." I'm like, I know.
Like I only need one shoulder to hold the mic now.
That's it.
Yeah.
And there's a mic stand in case both of them go. I can just full Ron White it and stand up there. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Or like when you get rich and famous, you can fucking finally. Do you carry around like a receipt, like Jim Carrey, for your shoulder surgery? Like as soon as I get enough money, I'm gonna fix this fucking shoulder.
As soon as I can feel like I can take 3 months off from chasing my dreams, I'm gonna get this fixed.
So
Yeah.
you're a vet. You've been doing it. You're 35 now.
35. Started at 19.
Yeah.
Long time. Was that 16 years?
But that's about I mean, I don't know about you. For me, I had so many peaks and valleys, ups and downs, and I don't think I was competent for a long time in stand up specifically. Like so, I watched your clips. Like it was just it's funny when you get a hit from a publicist, because I didn't know you.
It was my manager
there. Or your manager, yeah. And because like you totally, you could just totally reach out. You could fire him and just totally DM me.
But I don't like reaching. I'm so like, man, I'm one of those. I know a lot of comics are that way, but like I'm uncomfortable reaching out for everything.
Yeah, it probably means you're a good guy. Yeah, it just
feel
means
like
you're
I'm
a good guy.
bothering somebody.
Yeah, it means
and
you're
I'm
a
like,
good person.
I don't want to bother somebody.
Yeah, it just means it's going to take you a long, long time to become big.
Yeah,
like, people make it big here. They just have no conscience. They just go.
I know.
Yeah.
I wish I almost like a strong salesman.
Yeah.
They just have like you can cuss a salesman out to their face and they'll be like, "Well, I'll talk to you tomorrow." Yeah. And I'm like, I don't have that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'll avoid you forever. I'm so sorry. But I always have that. Last night we had dinner with a friend of mine, and before he showed up, I turned to Emma, my fiance, and I'm like, "You think he really wants to have dinner with us, or do you think he's like people pleasing?" And she's like, "Why the hell would you think he's people? You've been friends with him for 10 years." I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's just how like the negative, wheel in my brain works. But yeah,
it's also humble. He shows humility. I think you're like thinking of him. You're like, does he really want to be here?
Right.
Yeah.
But I remember I learned
people who
that
move quick don't have those thoughts.
No,
They're
they don't.
unencumbered.
They just go right
They
in.
go, where's it? What can I get? What can I get?
Yeah.
I can get this guy. Let me call him. I get it from Matt. I got this guy's got that. I want that. If I'm with him, I can get that. And they move quick.
They do, and I think I really learned that like the first time I did a road gig outside of San Diego. I was already doing comedy like for 4 or 5 years, and it was a Chuck Johnson room in Topeka, Kansas. Jeremiah Bullfrogs, 2-man show. I do 35 minutes opening. Headliner does 55. And I agreed to do the show because I felt like I had more than 35 minutes. And the show went well. And the headliner, Jen, she goes, "Wow, you're actually funny for the whole time." And I was like, "Thank you." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" He goes, "Most comics have like 7 minutes and then bomb for the next 28.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would never sign up for a gig where the time slot is 35 and I didn't have at least 10 extra minutes in case some of this stuff didn't work.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, I think you're doing it weird." I was like, "Oh, okay."
I know exactly what you're saying, and now I have a good sense of who you are. Yeah. The good thing about comedy, I think, is that it's not age dependent, right? Like, I don't think it's age dependent at all.
No.
I think it's sort of ageless. Like, you don't even think about comedians in like an age way. They're almost like these, like, you think of them as just like, you don't think about like Joey Diaz is whatever,
He's gotta
close
be.
to 60
Yeah,
or
it
whatever.
has to be,
You just
yeah.
think Joey Diaz.
Yeah.
It's like they're almost ageless. It's more like a comedic spirit. So I think that's the one good thing. And the second good thing is just like, at the end of the day, funny just wins. Like, even if it's after 20 years or because like at the end of it's the closest to sports, I think, in that, bullshit will get you. My dad had an expression. My dad he had a great expression. He said, "Bullshit will get you far, sometimes farther than the truth, right before it kills you."
Oh,
And I
that's
was
good.
like that. I was like, yeah, I mean, it eventually will catch. The check will come. Well, if you've ordered food and you're having a big buffet, and then like the check will come, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I got to pay for this shit. I'm not really that great, it just catches up to you.
Right.
So yeah, because I could tell, because I ordinarily wouldn't have responded.
Right.
Usually because it's like you have people on who are gonna bump your numbers, who are kind of in the tribe of podcasts that we all pass around, like fucking the girl in high school in your scene who a couple people banged out.
That's one way to describe it.
You know, or you have someone on who's like, fucking some intellectual that Joe Rogan made famous. You're like, yeah, it'll bump the numbers, even though I don't really want to speak to fucking, whatever. But
Jocko
I
Willink?
watched.
I don't know.
Yeah, I watched a clip and immediately I was like, oh, this guy's good. I could tell
thank you.
immediately. I was like, wow, he's really funny. And I watched a bunch of the clips. So I responded quick. I was like, yeah, just have him down. Fuck it. I got a good vibe. Let's see what happens.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
And
I'll try to get better at reaching out personally, so it's not as weird.
Well, yeah, I mean, me too. I have the same problem. So I can't say that I'm not the same way. One of the clips was really, they were all really good. But the one that sticks out in my mind, because it's like such an original take and so funny and so simple, kind of like your mom's adages, was the one about COVID. And it was so good. And it was just like, it makes it like you just make this point for like just the ordinary person. You're going like, yeah, I got this buddy. And he's like, I got the vaccine. And he's like, yeah, you should get the vaccine. He's like, where you hear that? He's like, I'm butchering it. But the idea is, go check it out. It's funny. Not like I'm doing it. But the idea is very funny. And you disarm the whole thing. And you're like, the nerds told me to do this. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't fucking, because none of us know.
I definitely
You're going, I don't fucking know. And he's like, you don't know. And you go, I'm just listening to the nerds.
Right.
You're listening to the some jujitsu podcast.
Exactly.
And like, so we're both just listening to dudes.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all doing, is kind of just taking someone's fucking word for it.
And it's not just for the vaccine; it's everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because I think the only thing I'm doing is I'm aware that I don't know anything, and my opinions come from whatever I listen to or whatever I read. So I'm probably full of it too, dude. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So, but like, I don't get why we're arguing about it. Like, we're both listening to other people, so we're almost like they're pawns in the chess game.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why are we down here?
Yeah.
What's the whole thing? And I always try to write my jokes anytime it's like something divisive, because everything's political now. I always try to write it with the people that disagree with me in mind. I'm like, how do I get them to laugh at this?
That's great. Yeah.
And because I know the people that agree with me are going to laugh, but that's easy. Like, how do I get those people? And I still try to ride that line, and I bring them. And I know it works when I'm in a room in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, or Florida, and they're like, when I start talking about it, they're like, you hear the murmurs, but then at the end they're laughing. I was like, we got there.
Yeah.
The only place it doesn't get them is online. Like, online, the comments are positive, but every once in a while, like, I saw what he did there. He tricked me into kind of agreeing with him, and then they get mad anyway. But with those people, you just can't please.
Those people are, they're committed.
They're committed.
The people who comment online, the ones who comment good things, those are great. Those are like fans, and they're committed, and that's great. They show like enthusiasm, and they're like following you like a band, and they're into you, and they understand you got to put out a lot of material, and it's not all perfect, because that's what it is now. That's the zeitgeist. You got to constantly put out material. And then the ones who comment negative, you're like, these people are troubled people. Can you imagine spending your time like, I don't comment good. I don't comment good when I watch something. If I'm watching something, I don't comment good and go, man,
like
nice
it.
documentary.
Yeah.
I don't watch like a true crime fucking hour and go, man, just write a paragraph there, let alone something bad.
Right.
You know, like, those are the types of people that like go out of their way. And you're like, what is really going on here?
You don't know how many bad comments I read on New Year's Eve. And I'm like, that's how they're spending their New Year's Eve. Everyone's out there drinking, having fun, kissing people, living life, and they're just like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that sucks.
Yeah.
You're not even watching a fun movie by yourself.
Yeah, that should be the respond comment. The rejoinder should be like, hey, man, I want to put a negative comment about what you're doing on New Year's Eve. You're here? That's kind of...
It's, dude.
Yeah, they do it because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The internet, the internet's great, obviously, in so many ways, but like there's always a yin to the yang.
Right.
And I think the negative part is it democratized attention. So what do we give our attention to? It's the same thing that the media has been playing on, and movies have been playing on. It's like that car crash phenomenon that makes people bottleneck.
Yeah.
Even when it's not that big of a car crash. Like, you ever in traffic and it's slowed down and then you get to the thing and you're like, this is what everyone was slowing down to? But then you realize you're also slowing down to look? There's some blind spot. It's like probably evolutionary bagass. It's probably something about like wanting to fit in, wanting to conform, wanting to be part of the tribe, wanting to be part of the group and not go against the grain for safety or something. That's sort of left over in evolution that makes us fucking just give the squeaky wheel the grease.
Yeah.
I always remember the one negative comment. There'll be like 10,000 good ones, and then the one you're going like, what the fuck? And that's why they do it.
Yeah.
That was my point.
I do that with restaurants. Sometimes we'll go on Yelp and it's like 1,000 good comments, but one person was like, the chicken was kind of dry. And I'm like, the chicken could be dry.
Yeah.
Like if we go, what if we get the dry chicken?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they get my attention and I'm trying really hard not to read the comments. Like,
Yeah.
but it's hard.
Guys, guess what? It's the Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl this weekend, and if you're watching it, the Super Bowl happened. I guarantee you that the Philadelphia Eagles won. They're too good. It's just one of those years they're just too good. And Mahomes runs like he's trying to catch a bus. So, you ever notice that? He's always running like he's late for a bus and he's got bags with him. But it's time to bet on the Super Bowl, guys. All right? And an official sports betting partner of the Super Bowl, 57, is here to talk to you through me. Let's get busy with DraftKings Sportsbook. Promo code FUMES. Right now. Check it out. All customers could get in on the Super Bowl 57 excitement with DraftKings Happy Hour Super Boosts. Check the DraftKings Sportsbook app every day between 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. for updates to see what prop bet will be boosted. So put your money on the Eagles. They're the favorite, but just don't worry. Whatever you throw up, you're gonna win. Let's bury the book. Let's just everyone just bet on the Eagles. They're gonna blow them out. I mean, the kid's running for a bus. He's got an ankle. Kelsey's back's hurt. He's playing against his brother. He's not ready for it. So put your money on the Eagles. That's my recommendations. What you got to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code FUMES. New customers can get $5 on Super Bowl 57 and new customers can bet $5 on Super Bowl 57 and get 200 in bonus bets instantly only at DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code FUMES. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details, my friends. Now back to the show.
It's hard, but the only hope is to get so big that there's so many comments that you don't read them. But when there's like 100 comments, you read every single fucking one of them. That's the problem.
And I'll scroll past the positive ones. I'm like, get me to that. Get me to the one that will ruin my day.
Yeah.
It's so self-destructive.
It is. It is. It just comes with the territory of the internet. Like I was thinking the other day, I was reading about the polio vaccine, and it was sort of this, there was this thing called the Cutter Laboratories. So Jonas Salk put out like the first version of the polio vaccine, and Cutter Laboratories manufactured. What the fuck, Siri? Shut your fucking mouth, you bot bitch. Sorry, I don't know if you work clean, but I don't want to hurt any corporate gigs if they see this. Which is an advantage. You work clean, right?
Yeah,
it seems like you work
I do some corporates.
So good. It's such a good thing. So Cutter Laboratories was manufacturing the early vax, and they messed it up. They messed up the vaccine. A lot of kids got messed up. So they ended up halting Jonas Salk's vaccine, and like it got maligned. Similar to now, like I was only thinking like, what if the internet was around then? Like every single, because every vaccine has side effects. Every vaccine harms some people. You just hope it's very little for the greater good. It's a very horrible reality that a lot of people now don't want to accept, especially because we live in an age of like instant gratification and like DoorDash and like, things just coming right to your door. So you're like, what do you mean something goes wrong?
Right.
I'm used to perfect service or else I write a review. And so every vaccine has problems. So that's Jonas Salk's, that version of the vaccine was pulled. And then another guy, his competitor or whatever, that vaccine was used. And that vaccine was shit. So then Jonas Salk, they ended up doing another vaccine that was like modified, and that was the vaccine that kind of pretty much eradicated polio. Although it's not eradicated is like means it's no more an epidemic, but people still get polio.
Every once in a while.
Once in a while, it was creeping around in like Rockland County, New York. Some kid got it.
Yeah, like recently.
Recently, yeah. So it's like it's one of those things. You don't get rid of viruses. Those things are resilient.
Yeah.
They're like Hillary Clinton. They keep coming back. They got an ambition to them. But I was thinking about what if the internet was around today for that. Like, you know, it would have been the same thing, I think. Everyone would have had an opinion. One thing went wrong, you know, which is legitimate. It would have just been amplified because that person would have had a platform to put it out, and then you're putting it out to a bunch of people who already have some sort of preconceived beliefs or whatever, and then they amplify it even further, and then it confirms what they believe, and they start mistaking the exception for the rule, and then you get to a point where you don't know what reality is, which is where we are.
Exactly.
So I was thinking, like, would we have even gotten to this point? Would we even gotten to this point of technological advancement, medical technological advancement? Like they're about to cure cancer with a fucking would we have even been able to get here if the internet was around like before and people could argue? Can you ever think about that? Like I don't think we would have been able to get here.
No, yeah, like the first caveman that did the wheel.
Yeah,
but then,
dude.
like, you know, someone died of an accident. And you're like, that wheel kills people. What are you doing with that wheel?
Exactly.
Like, how much would we have been set back if Twitter was around in the Stone Age?
Yeah.
That would have been rough, yeah.
Yeah, Robert Moses wouldn't have been able to fucking get anything done. Robert Moses was the guy that did all the highways and stuff.
Right.
He would have been like, and he had to displace a lot of people. He had to, like, he had like a very cynical expression, which is kind of funny. He's like, you can't make omelets without breaking eggs. Which is like,
That's
if
what
he
you're
would've
going to
said that
say
today-
about moving people's homes? Like, yikes.
He would have said that today.
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't have been able to build the Verrazano Bridge right here because, like, there were protests back then against stuff he wanted to do. But if there was the internet, you were just able to mobilize more people. So there's good and bad with everything. It's just, it's an interesting question. Like, would we have been able to get anything done if the internet was just like there was a bunch of people going, no, one person it hurt. And you're like, I know, but it also helps millions.
It's also kind of comforting to know that we haven't gotten worse as a species. We just have new tools to destroy ourselves.
Interesting.
You know,
What
like,
do you mean by that?
Well, like, because like we were saying this, we would have been the same society if we had Twitter 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Right.
But now we have it. And so now it's up to like the people that are making the new stuff to go, now I'm sure like they're looking at us go, well, what are they going to do with it?
Right.
Because we gave them social media.
Right.
And then
Right.
they're using it to destroy each other. So what's the next thing? And I wonder whoever's developing the next thing is like, let's have a think tank
Right.
on what these dummies are going to do with it.
We know what this is going to be used for. We know we have a massive case study of 15 years of what humans will do
Right.
with this technology. So let's put in a couple of fail safes. Let's put some seatbelts in this thing.
like I don't know, drones were fun for like 2 years,
Yeah.
and now they put a bomb on them, and now it's like, oh no, now you can't fly it near an airport. Or
Yeah, I remember here in the metaverse, there was like a sexual assault in the metaverse, and some girl sued Meta or something. And I'm going like, how can you even do that? How is it possible to say? And I'm like, humans found out a way. Yeah, they probably did. They were probably just like their avatars were just fucking like guys in ski masks. And they just jumped their avatar. And
It can
you're like,
happen.
yeah.
I've been in the metaverse. I did comedy in the metaverse.
Did you?
Yeah, I did a set in the metaverse, and to get me comfortable with it, they did this for all the comics. We did like a walkthrough. So they sent me the goggles, and I went in. It's very cool, but it's just like everything else. Twitter can be cool, depending on who you read and who you get to interact with. But if you interact with the wrong person, now you're putting a voice to that tweet, and now they're this close to your face with a cartoon face going, come join us.
Right.
Come join us. And you're like, I get this off of me.
Yeah.
You know, it's upsetting. But I thought like I would be a different person in the metaverse, and I wasn't. Like I put these goggles on, and I went up into a room the second time with like 20 people that I knew.
What was that like? So it's just cartoon avatars? Or?
Yeah, it's cartoon avatars. You don't have legs. I'm
and
sure
you can
in, like,
hear their laughs and everything.
It's
Yeah.
almost like this. So, like, if we were in a big room and there's like 10 people over there, you can hear the murmurs of their conversation. And the closer you get to it, you can now hear the conversation, just like real life. And I just thought I would be a different person up there. But just like a regular house party, I showed up and then I took my avatar to the corner of the room and I just stared at the wall. $1 billion worth of technology to still be in the corner petting the dog, you know, be like, I don't want to talk to anybody. And but it is all with who you interact with. Like I did the set and all the people at the show were cool, so it was fun. It's a little weird, but I think in like 5 or 10 years, whenever they get the graphics really dialed in, so it's not so avatar-y and more lifelike, could be a game changer. You know?
Yeah. So did you feel like it was the same, or it felt a little different because just the graphics, or what was the feeling behind it? Was there anything missing? Like you don't have the smells, you're not really in the room with them, but is it almost like you're in the room? Did you feel any different?
It felt close, but there's also a delay in the kind of the laughter's instantaneous, but you're just looking at these cartoon faces, and I think that's what really got me.
Right.
Just looking at cartoon faces, and then the comedy club that they set up, the Soapstone, was awesome, but it also had high ceilings. I'm like, we can't even get a good comedy club in like the metaverse. It was a skylight, like it was out to the sky.
You're like, guys, there's so many things that need to go right.
Lower ceilings.
It's
back
so
them in.
few. Just get it right.
Go to the Comedy Cellar, recreate that. I don't know, but it was bizarre. It was bizarre. The first time I went in there, it scared me. The second time, I felt more comfortable, and then the third time, I actually did the set. And overall, I thought it was a great experience, and I think it could definitely like be a game changer moving forward. But it's all about getting people to try it. You know?
Yeah. I don't know how it's doing. How is the metaverse doing? I don't know.
I read articles that it's like not doing, like they're losing a lot of money, but I think it's kind of like when the internet came out in 94. I didn't get on the internet till like 98.
Right.
Like I was 4 years later. So I don't know, check on it in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
Maybe everyone's on it.
Right. Right. Or maybe Mark Zuckerberg goes, hey, we need another virus to get everybody back inside, because that's when it would really flourish, if at all.
Put it on.
It would definitely, it would hypercharge it. It'd be like a supercharger for, getting people on there.
Yeah.
Because people are home.
Yeah,
I think maybe part of it is people want to be back outside together.
Yeah. After being stuck at home, people really have this burst to go outside. But the crazy thing is, like, people might be working in the metaverse. Like the guy who runs that comedy club, Soapstone, he has, I think he said 20 or 30 employees, like paid employees.
That's so
that manage the club, manage everything just like it's a real comedy club. They sell tickets for real money. Like it's bizarre. And then he was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, the metaverse is like, it's like there's going to be real estate agents selling real estate, just like you're selling real estate in real life, but it's in the metaverse.
That's
crazy.
Trippy.
Yeah.
And you think, do you see it? Do you see it happening?
Yeah, I could see it happening. And mainly I think I want to see it happening just because I don't want to be the old guy that goes, oh, that's not going to work. Yeah. And then it does work. Yeah. And then you're like, wow, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Because I've done that a few times where I'm like, that's not going to work at all. And then you're like, oh, that's the biggest thing on the planet.
That's trippy. Yeah. So like, eventually, will he like employ security at the club?
He might have. Oh yeah, they bounce people.
They bounce people?
Yeah, I go, what happens if we have like some lunatic who just runs on stage and does circles or whatever? And he's like, oh yeah, there's a manager. You just press a button and that guy disappears. So it's like, it might be the best security of any comedy club. Because every other comedy club, anyone can just run up there and beat the crap out of us. But over there, I guess they can hit a button and you just like go to jail or something. I don't know what you do.
It's really counterintuitive when you think about how little incidents happen at comedy clubs. Because if you put it on paper, you're going like, there's a guy going up there telling jokes, which some people don't take well.
Mm-mm.
And, sometimes someone can be the target of the joke, which is sometimes what happens. You would think there'd be more like comedians attacked. Yeah. But it doesn't happen that often. You would think that we'd have better security besides some, open micer who's working at the club, or, some guy who's working at the club who's clearly not in shape.
Right.
Like you would think on paper that comedy clubs would be a place that you would need heavy security. Yeah. Because on paper you're going like, this could really go wrong.
But
could. It almost never does.
It's like the level of safety at a comedy club with like compared to incidents is so good.
Yeah.
But have you ever been to a comedy club where they have like security to a point where you're like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. Like what's going on? I did this club in Kansas City. It was a great club, but they had a security guard like escort me from the green room to the merch table, stood there next to me, made sure no one killed me, and then took me back. And he was a nice guy, but I was like,
I'm not Zelensky.
I felt, I'm like, am I in danger? Like, I didn't know what was going on. So I guess that's good to have, but that's how uncommon it is to have security, that when you have security, you're like, did you get a threat?
Yeah, it stuck out in your mind.
Yeah, it made me uncomfortable.
I was at the Philly Punchline on New Year's Eve, and they have a metal detector at the door, and I was like, "Oh shit, Philly, shit go down here like that?" And, and the girl who was doing it was like, "Yeah." First of all, it was hilarious because the first night I went in the front, I just was like went in the front. And that's always the best when you go in and they're like, they stop you and they're like tickets. And I'm like, I'm actually, I'm actually working here. I always enjoy it. I don't get offended. I think it's real funny. It's a good way to start. It gets me in the right place.
Yeah, it humbles you. Yeah, you definitely don't come in big-headed. The best is when you tell them, actually, I'm on the show, and then they look more disgusted with you. They're because I've had that where like tickets, and you're like, I'm actually on the show. And then now they won't make eye contact, and you're like, I guess we're here. And then you just go in. You're like, well, we're starting from zero. Yeah. I've had that a lot.
Yeah.
And Philly, I mean, you guys obviously know East Coast better than me, but of all the cities I've performed in, everyone's like, oh, be careful. Boston's pretty edgy, like kind of scary. And I was like, every time I've been to Boston, I'm like, people are nice, you know? New York, watch out. I'm like, thankfully, I've never had an experience. People are pretty nice. Philly terrifies me. Philly was the one city where like I went into like a hipster coffee shop and the barista was a little edgy. And but he was still dressed hipstery, but he was just like, yeah, what do you want? And I was like, whoa, calm down a little.
And Philly can be block to block.
Oh,
it's very funny. Philly's like block to block, just as far as like street safety.
I see.
You're like, it's one of the most block to block places. Jacksonville's like that too, where like you're on one block and it's like the nicest block. Then you turn the corner and you're like, what the fuck? Same thing with Philly. You'll be like at the Ben Franklin grave site, and then you turn the corner and you're like, oh my God.
Made a mistake.
Yeah, zombies over here.
Yeah, they got it bad.
Yeah, it's block to block. It's designed. I don't know why that is, but those two cities stick out of my mind. There's really, the neighborhoods don't really matter. It's more the block. You know, other cities, you're like, all right, you're in a good neighborhood. You got a little square footage to move around and feel okay. Philly, you're like, square footage, it's unpredictable.
Oh, wow.
It's almost person to person. Philly almost gets person to person. You're like, whoever passes you on the street, you're like, all right, it's person to person. It can get scandalous.
Yeah, it's but I kind of admire that they keep the East Coast edge to them.
They definitely have it.
Yeah.
Boston and New York have it. I mean, and they've both been gentrified, right? Because they became, the cities became expensive, especially pre-pandemic. Like, you know, it was interesting how it worked, right? It was like all the parents moved out to the suburbs and the kids were like, I don't want to work at Panera Bread. This sucks. And they all moved back in.
Yeah.
And it was like an era of like a real boom in arts. And, you know, so all these kids, we have like a surplus of liberal arts majors because we're lazy. Let's just be honest. An American B is an Asian A, right?
Yeah.
You come with the B, your parents are like, good job. What'd you get a B in? You're like, English. You know, the language you learned it for. Good job. You come with a fucking B in an Asian or South Asian household, they're like, go sleep outside. So, you know, we're comfortable. So all those kids wanted to be comics and writers and actors, and they all moved back to all these cities. And then COVID, it's funny, they kind of left again a little bit. Like it's kind of, I don't know. Where are they now? Are they back?
I think they're still coming back just because I've been apartment hunting in New York, and it seems like there's a good amount of competition. Or maybe it's always been that way.
No, New York, it's always been that way. But New York, yeah, it seems like the rental market is as strong as it's ever been, or hard, depending on which side of it you're on.
I didn't know they had like an auction system. Like we were looking at apartments in the summer, and it was very competitive. In this one unit, they're like, you made it to the final four. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
You're like, what happens? Does America vote on the
Yeah, I
final
know.
two?
Like, what happens now? Are we highest credit score wins? Like, what are we doing here? And he goes, I think the rent started, like, it was listed at like 32. And he's like, the rent's, he's like, it's up to 36.50. What's your bid? And I was like, what? Like a bid?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm like, it's auction? He goes, yeah. And he was like annoyed that I didn't know.
Yeah.
He was like, yes, what's your bid? And I'm like, 37. And he's like, okay. And then I got an email like an hour later. Go, you didn't get it. It ended at 38.50. I'm like, why don't you call me back? We could have. I had another $50 in me. Like, it was weird. And I'd never experienced that. So maybe that's normal. And I was a first timer for that. But
New York is like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, everyone's trying to get in. It's a demand thing.
I love the personality, though. We looked at a place yesterday, and the realtor was like he's probably a guy in his 50s, grew up here his whole life, and he spoke so fast that he made me feel dumb. Yeah. Like I asked it. No, my fiance asked. She's like, "Is there air conditioning?" And before she finished conditioning, he goes, "No, you buy that yourself. You put it there. There's a plug." And I was like, "Whoa!" He was like almost mad, but he wasn't. He was like, he like smiled. And I was like, "All right." And then at the end, he goes, "It was nice to hang out with two people that are polite." And he goes, "You guys might be too polite for the city." I was like, "Oh,
It's a fun way to be like, hey, you may not make it here.
yeah." It was a little bit of like, don't smile so much.
New Yorkers, New Yorkers can be arrogant. They are honest. It's a culture of honesty, but I have had that experience. The two people who really illuminated it for me, like the New Yorkers are a little like, ugh.
Yeah.
Was Tom Segura and Nate Bargatze. So I came up with Nate, and I just, talking to Nate, sometimes I'd find myself like shifting in my seat, going like, hurry, Jesus Christ, man. Like, finish the sentence, man. Like, it's not that riveting what you're saying, so you should say it quick. And then Tom Segura, we were talking about like New York comics, like and people from New York who were comics, and I was having a moment of self-awareness, being like, yeah, I know we're kind of like,
yeah.
And he goes like, the way he said it made it click. He was like, yeah, it's kind of like an assault. He's like, oh man, fucking take a breath,
I prefer
get
it.
some beats,
Like have a breath. I prefer it to. Now, I'm not talking comics, just people. I prefer it to people from LA because they just come off very phony and not genuine. Yeah. And I'm like, I'd rather have someone be gruff but honest as opposed to flowery and bullshit, right? But as far as like talking to New York comics, very intimidating. Yeah. I worked Hilarities the same weekend as Robert Kelly, and then the manager took us all out, and I didn't get he's like running the table, he's running, and I'm just like, I'll shut up. And there was like one part of the conversation where I'm like, I think I could add something, and so I start talking, and then I'm not even halfway done with my story, and he's like sucking on a chicken wing. He goes, "Hey, your story fell apart there, didn't it?" And like so quick, and I just went, and I looked at the dude that was featuring for me, my buddy, and I just went, I'm never talking again. And I just looked down and kept eating. And I know he didn't even, like, I could tell he wasn't even trying to be mean or anything. He wasn't even trying to be a dick to me. He was just being very honest.
That
And
means he likes you.
It means he likes
hopefully.
you. It kind of does.
Yeah, okay. And I was like, wow. And he wasn't wrong. My story did kind of fall apart. But there was still an end coming. But he's like, we don't have time for that. We got to eat this Chinese food. And we're going to listen to this guy from San Diego. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Boston, New York, Philly. Those three places, I think, in particular, have that in common. Kind of quick, kind of aggressive, kind of honest. And, there's something to be said, though, about the Midwestern cadence, culture, politeness. It's nice.
It's nice.
It's nice, and not everything needs to be a goddamn machine gun assault.
No, but I'm a fan of it. Like all my favorite comics growing up, I didn't know it at the time, but they were all East Coast guys. Like that was the style I like. Like, man, that's so quick and sharp and fast, and I'm like, I dig that. Yeah. So that's why I want to live out here. I want to be amongst it.
So you're thinking about moving here?
Yeah, I'd like to. New York's the comedy city, and I've lived in LA, and I didn't wasn't my favorite. Yeah, it's very different from San Diego, even though it's super close.
Yeah. What's most recently? Were you in LA most recently?
No. I went to LA too soon. Like after doing stand up for a year, I moved up there. Yeah. And I lived there for 2 or 3 years, and just opened mics and didn't get better. And then thankfully I lost my job and had to move back home.
To San Diego, and then a bunch of clubs open, so I got a lot of stage time, and I started oh shit, I'm getting good. Yeah. And
So that helped, but yeah, I don't want to move back to LA. Like, I didn't have a great experience there. A lot of my friends live there now, so that would be nice. Yeah. But just
So you're in San Diego now?
Yeah, San Diego now. And I kind of like...
And you do the road and...
I do the road.
A lot of Midwest stuff?
Yeah. I have management, the guy who reached out to you, but all the bookings and stuff I do myself. Like, my fiance really helped. We do independent venues. So... if a comedy club will give me a good door deal, I'll do that. Like I saw, we both did side splitters in Tampa. That's been going well. But if a club doesn't book me, I'll just book the independent theater that seats like 150 or 200, and I'll pack that out.
Very good.
And then we keep the entire door. And I'm like, I don't even think a comedy club could match this door deal of 100%.
Right. No, you're right.
Yeah. So, like, there's this one in Denver, the Bug Theater. I love it. Seats 160. We did 2 shows, sold them both out. Kept the door. I think the rent was like $500, and I was like, I would love to work Comedy Works, but I don't think they could pay me this much.
Right.
Like they would.
And you're right.
Yeah. So that's what we spent all of last year doing, is setting up these independent shows and doing all this stuff, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this. Like, I really admire like guys like Doug Stanhope and Kyle Kinane, who just they're great comics, but they go their own path.
They have their fan base, and they find
have
the
their
offbeat
fan
venues,
page, and they don't care if they're at a bar or at a coffee shop or a small independent theater or whatever. They'll work them all, and I'm like, I admire that.
Yeah, and those guys are 2 of the best comics.
Yeah.
Kyle Kinane and Stanhope. Stanhope, to me, Kyle Kinane also great. I mean, one of the best. But Stanhope's one of the legends, and it's like, if you get a chance, go see him before he goes Kaputski. I mean, and hopefully you catch a good night, because I swear to God, I mean, still, I've saw him a lot. Especially, I think we went a couple times.
Yep.
And we caught him on a bad night once.
Yeah, he didn't get his mix right.
Yeah, he didn't get whatever he was on right, and it's just not that great. But when he's got whatever drinks whatever he's doing, if the mix is right, it's just he's the best comic. He's the best comic I've ever seen when it's going good. Like him and a few other guys, obviously when you get to that level, it's all the same. They're just different. But Stanhope is just, and yeah, he does that. He gets his venues and he does offbeat stuff. And so you've built your kind of a following online. I mean, you got your YouTube videos doing great. Your Instagram is doing great, and that's just so conducive for this era,
right?
And it's going to continue to go up, man. You're so funny, and you gotta check Zoltan out, man. Go to his website, is zoltancomedy.com.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. You gotta definitely follow him on the gram. That's the best way.
Yes. Yeah, give me a follow. It's all Zoltan Comedy, whatever the social media is.
Check that out. Tour schedules on the website. Welcome. I hope you move to New York, man. It'll be great.
Oh,
You'll do great here. I texted Chris already, and at the stand, and you're a beast of a comic. I mean, I watched a lot of the clips; they're all good. I mean, the stand up is good, and it's just so nice now with so much shit going around. You see a guy who's just like, when you go see him live, when you buy a ticket, you're gonna really enjoy the show. And I love you. You do work clean.
Yeah,
I love that, dude. I can't do it. I'll admit it. I mean, it's like if you see a guy who can work clean, there is a chance he may be doing something dark on the other side, as we found out, and that's why he's clean. But also not. It could be a chance, no. But I think it takes more skill. I think it's something that, like, you watch somebody and they work clean, and it's great because everyone can come and enjoy it. Not everyone is going to enjoy come and see me, and that's just how it goes. But everyone will enjoy going to your show.
Jesus,
so
man,
bring
thank
your
you.
fucking grandma.
Yeah.
Bring your dog.
Yeah, bring your dog.
Yeah,
your cat.
you see Nate Bargatze's these tickets, and he knew, dude. I came up with Nate, and he just knew. He knew. He's like, he's like, y'all get to New York. I get everybody. I get Nate Land. Yeah. I came up with his podcast name is Nate
You
Land.
did.
I came up with that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Nate Land. And because I said a joke once, I was like, dude, everywhere I go, it's just Nate Land. They all look like you. And he's like, yeah, man. He was like, we're everywhere.
He gets the majority of the country.
Yeah.
And he's also one of those guys where people watch him and they don't realize till the end. They're like, oh, yeah, that was all clean.
Yeah.
Because it was just all funny.
So funny.
Yeah.
He's just a guy, he's a special guy who can just sit back in the pocket and make you come to his world. And he's also a guy, he gets everybody. I've seen him make everybody laugh, You know, my crowd, whose ever crowd it is,
Yeah.
he's gonna get him because he's just naturally like
Just a
funny.
killer.
Oh,
Just a
he's
killer.
just a killer, and like you just get into a slow cadence and rhythm, and you just pulled in, and you're laughing your ass off, and you have a great time, and yeah. So it's like it just shows a high level of skill when somebody can work clean and be funny. So you're one of those guys, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
And yeah, you got to just follow him on the gram. That's the best place to start. And then go check out the shows. And thanks for doing this.
Dude, thanks so much for having me.
And tell your mom thanks for the words of wisdom.
Yeah, the little nuggets. She'll love that. She loves anytime I talk about her. She's like, oh, hell
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Guys, shout out to BrooklynCannery.com. 15% off your next order of these prebiotic healthy sodas. 20 calories, 30 calories, 40 calories, no artificial sweeteners, and they're also good for your gut. They also taste delicious. This is one of those things that I use, I buy. Did I use my own promo code? I did, but I like to support them, so I bought cases to my house a few times. My fridge is packed with them. Whenever I have the urge for a ginger ale, I just drink a ginger beer, 22 calories. I have an urge for a cola once in a blue moon, I get the cola. Okay, they also got root beer. My favorite is that spicy key lime jalapeno. So it's a delicious, and they got the lemonade lychee that you.
I can tell by the tone of your voice that you don't like.
I don't like it. I'll be honest. I mean, these are, but you liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
So
Yeah.
it's not for me. But BrooklynCannery.com, promo code Yannis Pappas, all one word, for 15% off your order. Order a case to your house. They deliver right to your door. NateLinder.com. Whether you need more brand awareness, Jesse, better leads, or more online sales, Nate's your guy. Home service businesses, e-commerce retailers, doctors, lawyers, pet groomers. Nate can work with any business. He sold over $1 million in digital advertising in 2022. So he's no rookie to the game. Nate Linder, he's great. So if you want to up your social media game, NateLinder.com, Nate_Linder on Instagram. We appreciate you, Nate. Chris Minetti, you know what to do. Give it a whirl. If you break into someone's house and you steal their checkbook, get over to Chris Minetti's. He'll cash it. No, if you need to get your check cashed in South Jersey or Philly area, call Chris at 215-750-3730. I assume he's got an address at some point, but you got to call him. You have to just speak to the guy on the phone to find out where to go. We're not giving you an address. All you get is a number. Call Chris Minetti at 215-750-3730, and he will cash your check. Free check cashing if you show proof of thalassemia minor for Italians. For the free.art, music in Hawaii. Check out local artists and bands. Find out about free shows. For the free.art is all things music in Hawaii. Manly Girly Studios came out to the shows in Miami. I want to thank you guys. I hope your shows are going good. Their podcasts at manlygirly.com. Gringo in the Rough, A Side of Fries, Casa de Thinking, and The Manly Girly Show. Go check out hosts Art, Andy, and their interesting friends down there in the 305. Talk shop. It's a ridiculously good time. ExclusiveAutoShipping.com. Discounts for students and military. Get a free quote. You're moving your car out of state, or if you bought your car and it needed to get moved out of state, they'll do it. 5-star reviews for these guys. Stellar online reviews. ExclusiveAutoShipping.com. Check it out.
It's been a